But do you recall the most famous
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Stop right there, Sam. We do not want any copyright issues on this video. Anyways, I'm back at it again with the Christmas-themed videos. And in today's video, I will be discussing the history and evolution of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And just like I did with Frosty last week, I will also discuss the Rudolph television specials. But to keep things simple, I'm only going to discuss the Rankin Bass Rudolph stuff. Before we do that though, it would be greatly appreciated if you would leave a like, a subscription, and maybe even a comment. Alright, now let's get into the video. Rudolph today is probably best known from his song and the Rankin Bass television special, but before there was either of those, there was a little story that was written in 1939 by Robert Louis May, and what was this story? Well, it was titled Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. At the time, May was working at the Montgomery Ward department store in Chicago, and the store had previously been purchasing and distributing coloring books to children for free around Christmas time. But buying books and then giving them away for free was not a very good business decision. So in an effort to save money, May's boss asked him to write a cheery children's book that could be given away. His boss also suggested that it should be about an animal. So May got to work and decided on a reindeer as the main character, since it was an animal related to Christmas. And May drew inspiration from his own rough childhood and created a character that was a bit of an outcast. And one day, after staring out of his window and seeing some fog obstructing his view, he had a genius idea that the reindeer should have a bright red nose that would shine through the fog like a spotlight. May completed the story in a few days, and Montgomery Ward distributed it in 1939 during Christmas time, and the patrons were quite fond of the story, and 2.5 million copies ended up being distributed. But due to the story being published during World War II, there were some restrictions on paper, and new copies were not able to be given out until 1946, when an additional 3.5 million copies were distributed. In 1948, Rudolph starred in a Fleischer theatrical animated short, and this marked his first appearance in animated form. The short is pretty much a retelling of the original story, but since this was the first adaptation of the story, the way the events in the story unfold are quite different than how most are probably used to. For example, Rudolph does not live in the North Pole, but instead he lives in a town of other reindeer-like people. He also lives in a house, which is also odd. Anyways, Santa stops at Rudolph's house to give him like gifts and stuff, and while he's there, he notices Rudolph's large glowing red nose, and decides that glowing nose would probably be helpful in guiding him and the other reindeer through the fog. So Rudolph guides the sleigh through the fog. Pretty straightforward. In 1949, a year after the animated short that I just mentioned was released, May's brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, turned the story of Rudolph into a song, and during the development of the song, Marks called his first version easily one of the worst songs ever written. But Marks worked on the song and made it better, and it was eventually brought to Gene Autry, who was asked if he wanted to record it. At first, Autry was hesitant, but his wife eventually convinced him, and he recorded the song in 1949, and then it was released in September of 1949, and it was a huge hit, and yeah, it's as simple as that. So now let's talk about what you're all here for, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer television specials and movies. The first of which being the most famous, the Rankin Bass Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer special, which was first aired on December 6th, 1964 on CBS. And actually, at the time, Rankin Bass was named Videocraft, so if you happen to see that name somewhere, it's still Rankin Bass. The special was completed in a year and a half, and was made using stop-motion animation, which was filmed in Japan. The special was also funded by General Electric, who invested $500,000 into it. And when the special first aired, during its commercial breaks, some of the characters from the special would advertise General Electric products. The special's plot is much different than the original story. It has the, same overall concept of an outcast reindeer with a red nose. But other than that, most of the story and characters were brand new. Some of the notable cast members for the special include Billy May Richards as Rudolph, Paul Soles as Hermie, Larry Mann as Yukon Cornelius, and Burl Ives as Sam the Snowman. Now before Burl Ives was chosen to voice and sing as Sam the Snowman, there was no Sam at all, but instead there was going to be what I can only assume was a disembodied narrator who apparently spoke in a heavy Brooklyn accent, and this narrator would have been voiced by Larry Mann, Yukon Cornelius's voice actor. But General Electric was not happy with the cast, and felt that there needed to be a big name in the special. So Burl Ives was chosen to sing over and narrate the story, and Sam the Snowman was added, so that Ives would be able to voice a physical character. Now it's unclear how much of Mann's voiceover as the narrator was completed, since there are absolutely zero recordings of them available online, and I highly doubt that they will ever be available, since they were more than likely destroyed decades ago, due to them going unused. When the special first aired, it was an immediate hit with audiences, but the viewers at home had one issue with the special. So you remember how in the special Rudolph tells all the Misfit Toys that he will tell Santa to come and get them so that they can be delivered on Christmas to children around the world? Well, in the original airing of the special, it must have slipped Rudolph's mind, because they were, not picked up by Santa. They were actually not even mentioned again. And this kind of upset some of the viewers of the special, so much so that they sent letters asking for a scene of Santa delivering the Misfit Toys to the children to be added. And since there were new scenes added, that meant that some scenes had to be taken out due to time constraints. One of these scenes was the final one with Yukon Cornelius, where it's revealed that the reason he was licking his pickaxe throughout the special was that he was searching for peppermint. Also, the ending credits were changed to show the Misfit Toys being delivered around the world. The original end credits simply showed random gifts being dropped off, and the original credits were not visible anywhere online until 2011, when the scene was uploaded on YouTube in black and white, but the scene in color has never been put online. Another change that was made to the special in 1965 was the scene with the song "We're a Couple of Misfits," which aired normally in 1964, but due to some finding the song to be like depressing, I guess. In 1965, a new song and scene were added, and this new song was titled Fame and Fortune. The Fame and Fortune song appeared in the special for many, many years, but eventually, the original We're a Couple of Misfits song was added back into the special, but the audio for the song was played over the newer Fame and Fortune scene, and since the song and scene did not match up, the visuals did not look the best. The original We're a Couple of Misfits scene was eventually added back in its original form though, and from my understanding, this version is how it's aired today. Alright, I think that's enough about the original Rudolph special, so let's move on to the second one, which was released on December 10th, 1976, and was titled Rudolph's Shiny New Year. The only notable thing about this special is it being Rudolph's second appearance in a Rankin Bass special, but if you wanted to see Rudolph travel back in time and team up with Benjamin Franklin to save a kidnapped baby, then this was made just for you. The next special though, Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July, is much more interesting. The special was originally released into theaters, but was taken out rather quickly, due to not making much at the box office. So the movie was later released as a television special on November 15th, 1979. As the title suggests, both Rudolph and Frosty appear in this film, and last week I discussed Frosty, so this week we'll take a look at Rudolph. The film does something quite surprising with Rudolph. It gives us the backstory as to why his nose glows. So here's the lore breakdown. There used to be this evil wizard dude here, who lived in the North Pole, but he was put to sleep for many, many years by this person here, named Lady Boreal, and as long as she stayed in her human form, the evil wizard guy, who was named Winterbolt, by the way, would stay asleep. But eventually her power ran out, and she turned back into her original form. So now Winterbolt was awake, and immediately after waking up, he made a plan to sabotage Christmas by making a heavy fog to block Santa from delivering his gifts. But before Lady Boreal goes away completely, she used her small amount of power that she had left to give Santa something that will guide him through the fog. And yes, you guessed it, that something was Rudolph's glowing red nose. So if you ever wondered how Rudolph got his red nose in the original special, now you know. Also in this special, there is a reindeer introduced named Scratcher, who was going to be one of Santa's reindeer, but when Rudolph came into the picture, he was not needed anymore, and he turned, like, evil or something because of this. I believe that's all the noteworthy information for that special, so we'll move on to the next Rudolph movie. And this one is actually going to be the last one discussed in this video. This one is different than the previous movies I've discussed, since this one was not a television special, but instead a direct-to-DVD movie that was released on October 30th, 2001, and was titled Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys. And look at this beautiful box art. Wow. I can already tell that this movie is going to be something special. maybe not. This movie was created by Good Times Entertainment, and is meant to be a sequel to the original Rudolph special from 1964, but instead of being made using stop motion, it was made using CGI animation. And yeah, that's all I'll say on that matter. Good Times Entertainment had actually already made a 2D Rudolph film, but that one looked a lot better than this thing, and had no relation to any of the Rankin Bass Rudolph stuff. The movie's plot is, quite unremarkable, but I'll talk about it anyway. So Rudolph and Hermie return to the Island of Misfit Toys after the events of the original special, so that Hermie can perform oral surgery on King Moonracer. And when they try to go back home, a storm sends the two to Castaway Cove, where this hippo lives. And the hippo offers to fix Rudolph's nose, and Rudolph considers it. And yada yada, this dude here named the Toy Taker kidnaps the toys from Santa's workshop. So Rudolph and his friends get them back, and the Toy Taker turns out to be a teddy bear who was thrown in the trash. So they forgive the bear for his misdeeds and return back to the hippo so she can fix him up. And Rudolph decides against getting his nose fixed, since he's like perfect the way he is. And I think that's enough about Rudolph. So I'll be ending this video here. But if you did enjoy this video, a subscription, a like, and maybe even a comment would be greatly appreciated. And with that, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.